Accra, also live on our numerous affiliates across the country. Coming up this afternoon, former SRC president of the Ghana School of Law, Victor Wanda Kuto, hits back at critics opposed to his call to the bar, insisting he may have stepped on toes but doesn't warrant a denial to be a lawyer. We hear from him, plus the Chief Justice, who's called on lawyers to take up more pro bono cases. Also this afternoon, legal experts predict difficulty for President Akufo-Addo over his defamation claims against Al Jazeera after the international media giant flatly refused to apologize over portions of its Gold Mafia documentary. We hear from them shortly. And Ghana Water Company warns the Owabi Dam in the Ashanti region is under serious threat as a result of increasing human activity along its tributaries. Officials say the company may soon import water to the region if the situation is not halted. And much later, pro-Baumia MPs in the Ashanti region hold meeting to map out strategy to secure victory for the vice president in the forthcoming flag bearership race of the governing New Patriotic Party. We're live to the Ashanti region to pick up on that. All of these and more if you stay with us for the next 30 minutes. Pleasure that I could have you as company this afternoon. I am Eric Mawuena Egbeta. The bulletin is streaming live on Facebook. The handle is 3FM927, as well as on Twitter. Same handle is 3FM927. Let's get into the details now, because former SRC president of the Ghana School of Law and now national executive member of the opposition National Democratic Congress, Victor Wanda Kuto, has hit back at critics opposed to his call to the bar. A purported petition has made rounds on social media and on news platforms calling on the Chief Justice not to allow for him to be called to the bar over impeachment and financial impropriety allegations during his tenure as SRC president of the Ghana School of Law. But today, Wanda Kuto has been called to the bar, raising questions over the moral and integrity test. Well, he's been speaking to 3FM and he admits to stepping on the toes of many during his administration. However, those could not be enough grounds to deny his call to the bar.
In respect of the petition, I will not talk much. Having served as SRC president, you know, as president, you may have probably stepped on some toes. I mean, I'm not a perfect person, but I serve a perfect God. So as president, I might have stepped on some toes. So I'm sure that pain is in some of them. But like I said, I'm not perfect. Mine was to serve the student body. I did my best. The 499 advocacy, you remember what I did. Not only me, the team, the 499. We did some few works. The renovations, we did some few works. LPM accounting. We have to push for it to be combined so that most students at the time can cross the 50 threshold to pass. So our administration also have some good positives, some positives. I've tried to reach out to everyone as much as possible, my colleagues and staff. If I've stepped on someone I can only ask for forgiveness.
That's Wanda Victor Kuto speaking there to my colleague Christian Yale. We'll try and get Christian Yale on the telephone line for some more on this. But the subject of controversy in relation to Victor Wanda Kuto has come up as socialite our governor was not a part of the cohort who were this morning called to the bar following a petition which prevented her from being called to the bar last year. We'll get a lot more on this, but the Chief Justice, Kwesi Anini-Yeboah, he has been speaking at that event as well, where he's, among many other things, called on lawyers to pick up pro bono cases in the future.
You must also endeavor to maintain a professional appearance at all times. Be dressed and well groomed from the law chambers, the courts, and the various offices you may find yourselves. Be mindful of your temperament and demeanor. Show respect to your seniors in chambers, judges, court officials, and the law clerks who will meet you routinely. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Develop the practice of conducting pro bono cases for the needy. Even though the Legal Aid Commission university you can as young practitioners and help the needy and the vulnerable in the society. I charge you to use the power vested in you today as Marisres and Supreme Court of Ghana to help build Mother Ghana, to consider the weak and the deprived, and above everything, be on the side of the truth. May the Lord God be your helper.
That's Chief Justice Kwesi Niniobwa there speaking to the over 100 individuals who were this morning called to the bar. A number of them interacted with my colleague Christian Yali over their call. Here's what they had to tell him.
Despite the growing call for the main, we didn't lose hope. We fought hard to this day. So I'm saying congrats to us all, and those who couldn't make it, more strength to them.
Call to the bar. I can brag and say that, yes, I'm now a lawyer. It's been a very long road, and I'm extremely grateful to God and all the people who supported me throughout this journey.
Some people have been on this journey for years. For those who come from high school, you would expect that within six years you would finish. Unfortunately, some of us didn't get called in November. So we are on our 7th year, basically. So finally, I think it's a relief.
Some of the students speaking to my colleague Christian Yali there, and I will get a lot more on this for you if you stay with us here on 3FM, particularly on the subject of AMA Governor as well not being a part of the cohorts. The concerns have been raised in the past. We'll get legal opinions for you on this in subsequent bulletins. But we're staying on matters relating to legal opinion because legal experts are predicting a difficulty for President Akufo-Addo in his quest to take on international media giant Al Jazeera over a defamation claim. Al Jazeera has, in separate responses to TV3, stated it will not apologize to the President of the Republic over content of its Gold Mafia documentary, in which a key witness, Alistair Mathias, alleges corruption and criminality to the name of the President. The Secretary to the President wrote to the investigative team of Al Jazeera demanding an apology and a retraction of all the publication. The media giant, however, say they will do no such thing. A situation private legal practitioner Martin Pebu says leaves the President in a complex place.
So the main thing is that if you're looking at the immunity of the President, now if the President wants to enter the court, it's going to bring a lot of challenges because he has immunity and now he wants to sue. I mean, if he decides to sue, then it's going to bring up the immunity will have to be looked at because he then opens up himself for a counter suit. Otherwise, it will look unjust. Right now, there's no evidence to show that anybody has defamed the President. When you say defamation, there are a number of things that have to be proven.
That's private legal practitioner Martin Pebu. For law lecturer Vitus Bang, despite the President's concerns, he doesn't see Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo taking the matter up any further.
The President of Ghana, in his private capacity, if he feels that he has been defamed, the President, in his private capacity, if he feels that he has been defamed, he may have a cause of action against Al Jazeera for the so-called defamatory statement. However, no one rushes to court. Definitely, the President, who himself is a renowned lawyer and who has a lot of good lawyers advising him, I believe he will have an introspection and see whether a legal action can be mounted against Al Jazeera for the so-called defamatory statements. It is also the case that in even a defamation suit, truth is a defense.
Right.
So that if the so-called defamatory statement about the President happens to be the truth, he being alleged to be the lawyer of the gentleman in question, Alistair Mathias, if that is true, then that may be a defense to Al Jazeera. And in any case, I don't think that if the President is going to pursue this matter, the Republic of Ghana is going to be involved at all. And so I don't see the Attorney General coming in and acting as lawyer for the president.
I brought in the Attorney General because the former Special Prosecutor, Martin Amidu, he's been commenting on the demand by the president for a retraction and an apology, stating that the person that was defamed was not just Akufo-Addo, but the presidency as a whole. And as such, if action will be taken, it shouldn't be the president's lawyer taking the action, but the Attorney General taking the action on behalf of the presidency.
All right. On the issue of defamation, a number of elements have to be established, including that a so-called defamatory statement has been made about a person, and that there's no justification for the statement or the defamatory statement. So, with all due respect, a person who is suing for defamation must show that he or she has a reputation, and that the reputation has been sullied. In other words, right-thinking members of the linguistic society in which the language was spoken now sees the person in another light, treats the person with scorn, contempt, and what have you. So if you want to refer to this defamatory matter as being the office of the president, I am, with all due respect, I am not too sure how likely that will be successful in a lawsuit. I would rather see an individual who claims that of course, that he has a reputation, and two, that the reputation has been sullied or marred by a so-called defamatory publication. And so I see that the president, in his private capacity, may be the one. Of course, there may be some diplomatic issues here and there because the Republic's name has been marred to some extent. But I do not think that the action that the Republic will have against Al Jazeera would be an action in defamation against the said media giant.
But just, I know that you have to leave, but just the entire subject of conversation, the request for an apology and then this refusal, I mean, we as journalists offer individuals who are named in an investigative piece or even any ordinary story the opportunity to respond. Al Jazeera seems to be quite clear on this, that they gave the president a right of response, that's one, and that even the claims made by the presidency in that letter demanding an apology are not accurate, and that they've clarified those claims, and as such they see no need for an apology. Can that wash? And these are just figurative, really, if the president decides to take the matter up.
Thank you again. The thing is that you and I do not have, are not privy to the content of the letter from Al Jazeera responding to the president's letter demanding for an apology. So not knowing the content of that letter may be difficult. But if you look at the posture of Al Jazeera, one would think that they seem to be standing on something. Of course, a giant media organization such as that, they also have access to very good legal advice. So I'm sure that they know what their rights and possible liabilities may be relative to the statements that they published. So for them to say that they are not more or less willing to apologize, it means that they probably have some other information that you and I do not have. And the president will be so advised if he thinks that he will not have a course of action.
Just to read responses to two media houses, because two media houses sought explanation. TV3, Joy FM as well wrote to Al Jazeera asking if they were going to apologize and if they had responded. I'm just going to read this one from Al Jazeera to Joy FM, where they stated in the response to Joy that we have responded to the letter from the president's office correcting some part of its content and clarifying various points. Since the documentary did not actually allege what the president's office has suggested it did, we will not be apologizing or removing it from publication. That's the response when, as media persons, we asked if they were going to render an apology, they gave to us.
Yeah. So that shows clearly their intention not to apologize. They do not intend to apologize to the president for the so-called publication. So I think the ball is now in the court of the president. If he thinks that he's likely to succeed in a course of action, against the media giant, then he will be so advised. But I think that he may not pursue it after all. He may not pursue it after all.
Counsel, I appreciate that you could speak to us.
The pleasure is mine.
That's private legal practitioner and law lecturer Vitus Bang speaking there to us on this rather controversial subject matter, and we'll continue to bring you up to the minute speed as and when there are new development to this. Let's switch our attentions and do politics now, because the New Patriotic Party parliamentarians who are backing the bid of Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia to lead the governing party as its flag bearer for the upcoming 2024 elections are currently in a meeting to map out a strategy to help the vice president secure victory come Congress. The governing party has scheduled its presidential primaries for November 4, 2023. On Tuesday, as we reported quite clearly here, the vice president, who has long been rumored to be interested in leading the NPP, formally informed the parliamentary caucus about his intentions. William Evans Inkum has been picking the details as to exactly what is happening in the Ashanti region. He joins us on phone. Evans, talk to us. What have you been gathering, and what are these plans being put in place by these set of MPs?
Well, so it is a gathering of pro-Bawumia MPs, constituency executives, and of course, regional executives. This whole thing, was triggered after a Facebook, message from the member of parliament for Nshiasu constituency, of course, the deputy minister for trade and industry, Stephen Amwa, calling on all pro MPs. I'm talking about DMB MPs. We talk about DMB, then we're talking about Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, to gather at the residence of the member of parliament for Asquaria Fijase, Dr. Ayu Afriye. Somebody that we all know that he has openly declared his support for Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, for that matter, even coordinating all MPs who also want to follow the vice president. So here, I can tell you that a good number of the MPs have come, but interestingly, Mawuena, they did not come in with their official vehicles. Most of them came with their constituency chairman. So, they came with the constituency official vehicle. That is the pickup. So you can see fleets of pickups, here, but most of them are members of parliament. So, not too long ago, one classical example that I can give, not too long ago, was the member of parliament for Manson Kwanta constituency, who came here not in his official vehicle, but the vehicle belonging to the constituency executive, and that is the pickup. So a good number of them are here, and they are only strategizing.
Only strategizing, and I know it's early days yet, but the Ashanti region largely has been seen also as a stronghold potentially for one of the leading candidates for this primaries. That's Alan Chermantain. Have you picked up any wind in terms of reaction to this move by these MPs?
Well, there's definitely going to be some level of reaction from the other interest parties. But yes, of course, you are right. In the Ashanti region, which is a conservative political environment, we're talking about tradition. Some of us who have followed NPP politics since 1992, we're talking about tradition. And that is one thing that the pro-Bawumia team would want to break. Because if we're talking about tradition, the region which has the largest constituencies as far as the political landscape of the country is concerned, then definitely it is going to have some level of negative impact on Bawumia's bid. That is the reason why they want to kind of break that kind of jinx. They want to also persevere they also want to ensure that they have, a chunk of the delegates who have the power to elect the next flag bearer of the MPP, as far as the Ashanti region is concerned, on their side. And my understanding is that today's meeting is also an avenue that will see those following Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the kind of messages that they will have to pitch, gauging the mood and pitching their messages accordingly. A very persuasive, or whether you like, or if you like, convincing one that will draw more people to the camp, or people here, I'm talking about delegates, to the camp of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who wants to lead the MPP into the 2024 general elections.
Just finally, though, any indication as to when these strategies, this meeting which is ongoing, ends, and if they'll be willing to speak to you?
Well, it looks like we are in for the long haul, because as I'm talking to you now, people are still coming. Not too long ago, I saw the Ashanti regional chairman of the ruling New Patriotic Party, Bernard Nchibu-Esiakon. Of course, one person was also, it was in this particular environment that he openly declared his support for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. So it's not surprising seeing him here. He just entered together with the second vice chairman of the ruling New Patriotic Party in the Ashanti region, Oba Umueye, affectionately called. She is also here. A number of regional executives have come here. Of course, somebody who has also openly declared his support for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia as far as the Ashanti region is concerned. We're talking about the regional youth organizer, Safo Patrick Raphael, is also here. So everybody who matters as far as driving, the electorate or the delegates in the Ashanti region is concerned, is here.
Right then, William Evansinkum is my colleague in the Ashanti region, our bureau chief in the northern part of the country as well, providing details there for us as to this strategic meeting. And you've been hearing him list the individuals who are present, the regional chair present, and amongst other top bigwigs in the NPP in the Ashanti region present. It makes for an interesting view what the response would be from the other camps vying for that slot to be the face of the NPP come election 2024. We'll move away from this but stay in the Ashanti region a while longer, because the Ghana Water Company there says that the Owabi Dam in the region is increasingly coming under threat as a result of encroachment along the dam's tributaries. The Owabi, which supplies water to the northwestern part of the Kumasi metropolis and surrounding communities, including Kwadasu, Ibuakwa, and Kawie, Akropong, among others, has suffered serious encroachment and removal of the vegetation cover along the tributaries. The dam, now heavily silted, has suffered drastic reduction of water volumes. Here's a recall of my colleague William Evansinkum's visit to the area. He filed this report.
Encroachment threatens the life of the Owabi Dam, and that is the danger. Human activity is gradually ending the life of the 93-year-old dam and could plunge Kumasi into a water crisis.
All this area is Ghana Water.
Charles Tulashi is the acting regional chief production manager in charge of the Ashanti region.
When the dam was constructed, the depth of the dam was 22.5 feet deep. Now, as we speak, the depth is 6 feet. So this shows you that there will be massive siltation in the dam as a result of erosion. All these areas where there are human development, estate development, building of buildings were to be covered by trees to protect this dam.
The sound of a sweeping shovel, another structure being erected on a tributary of the Nwabi River, which supply raw water to the Owabi Dam.
All these places were forest covered, but they have started clearing this one too. They are getting closer to the dam.
Dozens of structures are already sitting on the river's tributaries. Every protective cover for the Nwabe River is being removed.
It has not been easy. You have people even trying to trespass.
The Owabe Dam is in a vulnerable state because the trees protecting it have been felled. Dr. Shalom Adodanso of the Forestry Research Institute explains how the removal of the trees is impacting negatively on the water body.
Most of our water bodies, the other major ones, get their source from the forest. And part of the reasons why some forest reservations were made were to protect these water sources. Logging in itself or per se is not bad. Logging is an important management practice in Ghana and across the world. You log to remove economic species so that we can get some of the products that we need. But there's another side of logging where if there is excessive logging or there's a continuous removal of the trees, it may have a negative impact on the environment, on water bodies.
The Owabe Dam, heavily polluted, is fast losing its relevance. Tons of plastic waste from Swami and its environs are still lodged in the Owabe River's tributary at Atafua, waiting to enter the Owabe Dam. Authorities say if the trend continues, the dam will be shut down.
Eventually there will be a shutdown because, as I've already said, at the treatment dam site we have upper, middle, and down extraction. Down and the middle are filtered, so we are not using the upper. So if the upper to filter, that means there will be no flow of raw water to the treatment site. So eventually the plant has to be shut down. People just don't.
So that report by William Evans Inkum recalling exactly what the situation is. It hasn't improved since he last filed this report, and we had booked to speak to the Ashanti Regional Ghana Water Company boss, but indication we get is that he's currently in a meeting, and so as and when we get him, we'll bring this to you and get some more for you on this to seek to bring a lot more perspective on the conversation. But you're listening to the news here on 3FM 92.7. We're streaming live on Facebook. Our handles 3FM 927. Let's end with the Ghana Armed Forces because they've accused private legal practitioner and ex-military officer Jamal Dean Tonzua Seidu of unauthorized use of his military rank. A release signed by the Director of Public Relations of the Ghana Navy, Naval Captain M.A. Labi, noted that it was wrong for Tonzua to address himself as a retired captain or ex-captain. The Ghana Armed Forces reckon that Jamal Dean Tonzua Seidu was released from the service on Thursday, April 6th, this year on grounds of voluntary resignation of commission after serving for 5 years, 10 months and 18 days. And noted that the period did not match the standard number of years he's supposed to serve as an officer to make him entitled to use his rank in civil life. It further said the action of Tonzua is in contravention of the Armed Forces regulation. The statement further went ahead to urge him to cease using the rank in his civil life. But a private legal practitioner and law lecturer at GIMPA, Jamal Dean, he himself is challenging the Ghana Armed Forces to prove to the world that there's a law anywhere that bars persons who leave the military from addressing themselves as such.
I find this to be so shocking. I find it to be irresponsible. I find it to be embarrassing on the part of a serious institution like the Ghana Armed Forces. How on earth can military regulations regulate the use of basic English grammar or Latin? It's ridiculous. To say someone is an ex-something means he's a former something. To say someone is an ex-captain means he's a former captain. No military regulation regulates this matter, and I challenge the entire legal department of the Ghana Armed Forces. This is just an attempt to guard me. Because if you look at the unprofessionalism that went with the kind of write-up, the publication that was issued, no one should tell you that that was the voice and the hand of some hidden political elements.
That's Jamal Tonzua there, ending this afternoon's edition of the news here on 3FM 92.7. As always, a lot more news when you log on to 3news.com. I am Eric Mawuena. Egbeta. Dela Michel, she's on standby to bring us the very latest from the world of business. As always, a lot more news if you log on to 3news.com.
Hello there, good afternoon. Thank you for your company. It's now time to bring you the latest in the world of business. My name is Dela Michel. Coming up this afternoon, analysts project that there's going to be increased interest rates on money market as government plans to borrow over 1.8 billion cedis in treasury bills today. Also, Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana calls for the immediate lifting of ban on soya bean exportations. We'll tell you why. And of course, look forward to our Friday feature because there's a very important question. Did you know that men also wear wig? Yes, I mean wigs. So we will tell you as we look at the business side of wig and how the demand for the product is fast becoming a trend. Stay with us. We have the details of these stories and others coming shortly. Once again, thank you for your time. Let's begin with our very first story. Analysts are projecting a further increase in interest rates on treasury bills as government intends to borrow over 1.8 billion cedis today on the money market following tight liquidity conditions. The amount to be raised through the issuance of the 91, 182 and 364-day treasury bills will be used to refinance upcoming maturities estimated at 1.75 billion cedis. Government last week bagged over 2 billion from the sale of the short-term securities, about 30.4% oversubscription over the targeted amount of 1.5 billion cedis. Majority of the bids came from the 91-day T-bills as investors were mindful of the risk of the high interest payments. The results showed that the interest rates on the treasury market were mixed. And in the 4-week continuous rise on the yield curve, government borrowed over 8 billion cedis last month on the treasury market at 18.2% above its growth target. The funds were used to refinance maturities worth 6.3 billion cedis. Let's move on to more stories this afternoon as the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana is calling for a swift lifting of the ban on the export of soya beans. This comes as the livelihood of over 100,000 farmers in the northern region is being threatened by the situation. Speaking to 3 Business, Executive Director of the association, Dr. Charles Nyaba, stressed that government must soon salvage the sector.
With an immediate effect, we are calling on government to lift the ban on restriction and allow those who have the capacity to come and buy from a neighboring country or for export to do that. After all, how many Ghanaians consume soya? Apart from the poultry sector, many Ghanaians do not consume soya. Soya is not a staple for a staple food for a household. So if you continue to place the restriction, what it means is that you don't want the farmers to go to this year production. You don't want them to sell what they have to sell, and that has a dire consequences on the other food production because we need to sell it and the income generated we use it to do our farms for this year. Better still, if government sincerely want to support the local poultry to get cheaper soya products, what they need to do is to come and buy the soya that is parallel with us and then supply to the processors at a credit facility so that they will be able to process it for the poultry sector.
You heard the voice of Dr. Charles Nyaba, who is the Executive Director of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, calling for a swift lifting of the ban on the export of soya beans. In more news, this afternoon, processed cocoa has emerged as the highest non-traditional export earner for the country, according to the Ghana Export Promotion Authority. The Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, Dr. Ifuasa Biasare, in announcing the country's non-traditional export earnings for the year 2022, says the commodity Authority gained about $500 million in value and called for more processing of these non-traditional exports to make the country a top destination.
Our non-traditional export, I'm happy to say, for 2022 is a little over 3.5 billion, and this is to say that we grew by 6% for 2022, and it contributed 20.22% to the total merchandise exports of Ghana, which will include oil and gold and raw cocoa, which we don't have any mandate over. The number one, the non-traditional export earner, is cocoa paste. Value has been added to it from cocoa to become paste, so it sits with Egbeta, and this is the number one export earner, which contributed over 500 million.
You heard the voice of Dr. Efuasabia Asare, who happens to be the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Export Promotion Authority. On economics, Courage Boti urged Ghanaians to be measured in their expectations and desist from giving timelines on an IMF deal. This comes after government failed to get a deal in March as focused by the president.
The hopes of many Ghanaians were dashed as March 2023 ended without the country receiving the much hoped-for bailout program from the International Monetary Fund. The $3 billion loan is expected to help revamp the ailing economy. The managing director of the IMF, Kristalina Georgieva, recently indicated that the IMF will quickly approve Ghana's request for a bailout and is urging Ghana's creditors to take swift action to approve the program. Director of Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISE, Professor Peter Quarty, is quite optimistic of a deal with the fund soon.
I believe if you heard this terminology before, economists say all things being equal, just like life. We've held this program because it didn't rain, there was no thundering, there was no earthquake. Yeah, so all things being equal, the plan was to have this in March. But the external creditors have a big stake. China especially have a big stake in whether this program will come on or not. I'm cautiously optimistic that by June we should have the program running.
However, some are of the view that we should be measured with our expectations and desist from such projections.
The timelines, I thought we would be minded by now with giving timelines because we were working with first quarter, it's elapsed without a deal, and we know what the issues are. Yes, we may have made some progress now with China and then the others, and I know some creditor committee meetings have taken place. But again, it is not in our hands when they'll give us approval. It could be today, it could be tomorrow.
And that was a report put together by my colleague Michael Obodo. Let's now bring you our Friday special. The men are marching the women squarely with those between the ages of 30 and 40, accounting for the largest industry share in hair extensions and wigs. My colleague Danekria Mensah Brapa has been digging and reports the new craze is impacting pockets.
Conversations about hair extensions and wigs have been topical these past few days, so the curious journalist in me was pricked. Even though I have quite a few wig collections myself, I had not paused to dig into the market to understand why it has actually become a thing. Apparently, it is rubbing shoulders with the fast food industry because everyone wants to look and feel the part, and some would pay a fortune to get that. Originally known as artificial hair integrations, hair weaves, extensions, and artificial hair add length and fullness to human hair. Native Africans and people of African descent are the largest consumers of hair wigs and extensions, research has found. But the demand has seen a spike in recent times, largely due to people's increased attention to grooming and lifestyle choices. Of course, for those who have a bit of disposable income, for 29 years, Auntie Juliet has been in the hair extension and wig retail trade. Traders in the retail hair business describe the venture as lucrative in the past, but more saturated currently.
2018 coming down to this time, and with the COVID and all that, things are coming down because there are more people in it right now. I wasn't doing cosmetics, but it's just because of things going down, I decided to add it.
With as little as 20 cedis, one can get a decent hair extension.
We have the synthetic that ranges from 20 to 100 cedis. And the 50-50 is 50 fiber, 50 human hair. And those ones ranges from 300 up to 1,000. 70 human hair with 30 fiber ranges from like 1,000 to even 5,000.
However, for the luxury brands, good hair comes with a price tag.
Raw hair takes time to grow. So imagine us going to the village in Vietnam, in Cambodia, to cut someone's hair. These are the factors that goes into processing your human hair. My price range would be from 2,000 cedis all the way up.
Today, people are outdoing themselves to catch up with the latest, more fashionable, high-end lifestyles. But really, why would women spend so much on hair extensions? Some would ask.
You cut your coat according to your size. The fact that I'm wearing this one does not mean, say, chinchina, you also have to wear this hair type. I won't have the time to wake up in the morning to style my natural hair for it to look appealing. But with these ones, I mean, what do we call it locally? Almost eche, right? So you just wake up in the morning, you just put it on, you shake and go. That's how I call it more.
Imagine you having to buy hair of 800 cedis at least 5 times in a year, instead of just buying one good hair and keeping it that could last you a lifetime.
And that was a report put together by my colleague Nanekria Mensah Abrampa. The full report will be available on 3news.com and all social media platforms, including 3FM. But if you want the latest in the world of business, don't forget, log on to 3news.com. My name is Dela. Michel Black Rasta is standing by with Urban Blend. Do enjoy.
Boss.